Hello and welcome to another edition of the How to Grow Your E-commerce Business podcast. I'm Trevor and this is my colleague Tom. Tom, what are we going to talk about this week?
Well, Trevor, I thought this week we could talk about fulfillment on Amazon, why it's important, how to do it, and the pros and cons. So I think that's
an excellent choice. Fire away.
Well, so first question, why is fulfillment important to Amazon? Why is it a success factor?
Okay, well, it's important for two reasons. One is that within Amazon, if your item is Prime eligible, then you will get people will filter for that, and they'll only all the Prime members will only filter for things which are Prime eligible, and therefore you'll get in front of more customers. And also, if you're in a situation of a competitive buy box, something which is Prime eligible, particularly FBA or fulfilled by Amazon, will get a higher placement. So it is a very important success factor on Amazon and can increase sales by as much as 50%.
Okay, and let's talk about the different fulfillment options. I mean, let's not assume that everyone knows exactly what they are. So let's start with FBM. What is that, and when should you use it?
We're talking a lot of TLAs these days. So fulfillment by merchant is what it says in the tin. It's where the merchant will fulfill the item themselves. So this is where you would literally take the order on Amazon and you would ship it via your own carrier. Preferably, you would integrate your carrier so that you would the tracking details would go back into Amazon. This is something you would use. There's benefits, pros and cons. The cons is that unless you use something called seller fulfill Prime, which we'll get onto in a moment, it's not Prime eligible, and therefore anyone who has a Prime account may well filter for things which are only Prime eligible. So you will lose out on sales. The benefit is that it's easier. You don't have to worry about all these kind of Amazon metrics. You don't have to worry about any of these any problems that sending items into FBA, which we'll talk about in a minute, causes. You're just sending stuff from a single warehouse to your customer, so it's simpler. But you will get fewer sales.
Yeah, I mean, one advantage as well is that you only need the one pool of stock. So any business that has stock, you always have your stock in the wrong place.
So it's just you just have one warehouse, and you just send the stuff from the one warehouse. And simplicity is a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Are there specific products that do well in FBA as opposed to FBM, vice versa?
Well, I think that, one compelling reason to use, if you've got a situation where there's not many people competing for this particular product and you're the only person selling it, then there's less reason to use FBA or something like that. You can just send it from your own warehouse. Mm-hmm. If you're sending something which, for example, is fragile, you don't want to send it into Amazon warehouse. There's some items you can't send into Amazon warehouse, for example, hazmat, so things that are, I don't know, perfumes or chemicals or stuff like that, you may just not be able to send them into Amazon warehouses. Things where you have two things to go together in the same bundle. So if you've got a product, so if in your warehouse you're selling effectively a bundled product, so someone buys one thing on your website, but in your back end you put two things in a box and send it. You can't do that on Amazon. There's no mechanism to bundle things together. What you would have to do with Amazon, if you're selling it into their warehouses, you'd have to get those two items, put them in a box and put a separate label on them, and then send that unit into Amazon. Whereas with FBM, you wouldn't have to do that. You can just do that in the back end. So, and also, big and heavy items, which, the items which are under about 2 kilos are cheap to store on Amazon, but after that, it gets quite expensive quite quickly. So if you're selling prams or furniture or something, it's not really what FBA is designed for. So you'd want to send them fulfillment by merchant.
Mm-hmm. And how is the shipping set?
Okay, so what you would do is you have a product. Well, all products on Amazon have a shipping template, and that you assign a shipping template to a product, and that sets out the shipping services which are available for that product. So what I'd recommend, if you can possibly do it, is to have as many shipping options as possible. So you could, if you had a standard and express, so give people the opportunity to upgrade to the next level, would be the best way of doing it. I think actually it's if you've got your own warehouse, that doesn't stop you having an FBA item, like an FBM option and an FBA item. So you would send your stuff into the Amazon warehouse, and that would be one. And effectively, you just have two offers on the buy box, on the list of offers. and one would be the FBA item fulfilled by Amazon from their warehouse, and the other would be the FBM fulfilled by from your warehouse. And then if your warehouse, if Amazon runs out of stock, then there's always your offer to fall back on, which is, it's you're kind of doubling up there, which can be, as an advantage.
And we do that on a number of our clients. And what's interesting is that we see that where customers have a choice between an FBA version and an FBM version of the same product at the same price, they choose 3 or 4 to 1 to go for the FBA version.
Well, I mean, let's face it, Amazon is better at delivering than most people are. I mean, that's the thing. They're just better at it, and you might as well just accept that, and then try not to have a warehouse so you can possibly avoid it.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue with that. So continue with FBM. What time scale do you need to deliver in?
Okay, so you need to deliver within the delivery promise of when the item is sold. So if you look on the order details page, it'll have the delivery date, and you need to deliver within that date. Otherwise, the customer can pretty much get their money back, because that's the way Amazon rolls. So if you look in your shipping template, it will say, the delivery timescale of that product, and you need to deliver within that delivery timescale. Otherwise, you can get negative feedback. You just think, like on e-commerce generally, I wouldn't say it doesn't matter how quickly you deliver it. As long as it does matter, you should do it as quickly as possible. But fundamentally, people expect it to arrive within the delivery timescale. So you need to work out what the delivery timescale is and deliver within that. Now, there is the option to, if you're delivering FBM, to set a handling time as well, and that can be done on an account level, or it can be done at the individual product level. So it's important you understand what the promise you're making is, and then live within that promise.
Yeah. Can FBM be used for international shipping?
Yes, it can. So if in your shipping template, you just set your international shipping options, and of course, then it'll be someone from that coming onto whichever website can then just choose whichever country they want to get it delivered to.
So obviously, yes, you've got to be able to deliver to that country yourself.
Yes, it's worth saying. It's worth saying. Yes. I mean, the other thing is you can do any of these shipping options can be used internationally. So if you if you were based in the UK and you're selling on Amazon France, Italy, Germany, Spain, you can just you could use FBM to send the stuff either from your UK warehouse into Europe, or you could have a warehouse on the continent and send from that FBM. It just Amazon, what Amazon expects is that you just deliver it within the delivery promise, and it doesn't expect you to have a tracking. I think in the US it's moving towards expecting you to have a tracking number for everything, though I don't know if that's actually a rule at the moment.
Yeah, and it's probably worth saying at this point that when you're shipping overseas from the UK, especially into Europe, then the amount of customer service issues you have increases exponentially.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shit show.
You can be quite likely to breach your delivery promises. So just set them long,
Yes, I think that is extremely good advice to you. Yeah, I mean, the problem is that you'll deliver 99, the order defect rate is 1%. So that means if you get 1%, combination of if more than 1% of your orders are either have a negative feedback or a AZ claim or chargeback for that matter, then your account can be shut down. And so that means you can, it's a pretty low bar. 1 in 100 is delivered late. And the problem is, particularly after Brexit, stuff just gets stuck in customs all the time. So, I think it's better to, it's not good enough that 99% of your stuff gets delivered within 3 days. It's the fact that some of it is delivered, after 2 weeks is the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's think about SFP, another TLA for you. SFP, tell me about that.
Seller Fulfill Prime. So this is where you deliver from your own warehouse. So it's also FBM, confusingly. So it's fulfilled by merchant, but you deliver it using a Amazon approved service. So it's got to be in the UK. That would be raw mail 24. So it's got to be delivered next day. And you also have to make sure that you deliver within, as a metric, and I think it's 99.75% of things need to be delivered with it next day.
Yeah.
So it's good from the point of view that you are sorry, that you can do, you get the prime eligibility and it's from your own warehouse, which is good. So it's great for, if you've got a good catalog, or if you just think that Amazon FBAs are paying, or if it's really big, then it's great for that. But you do have a lot of hoops to jump through, and it can be more expensive. So from experience, Amazon has such enormous buying power that the cost of sending something FBA, their fulfillment fee tends to be cheaper than the equivalent raw mail fulfillment fee. So if you have a shoebox size product, raw mail will charge you in the UK would charge you £3.50 to do that, whereas FBA would charge you £2.75 or something. I'm making those figures up, but it tends to be cheaper.
That's roughly correct, I think, from my experience.
Yeah.
And obviously, you can then either take that as profit, or you can roll it into price and reduce the price and drive volume. So
yes,
it does make a big difference. When should you use SFP in that case?
Well, yeah. So SFP is if for some reason you can't do FBA or you don't want to. So, but you need to remember that if you're doing SFP, you need to be able to ship on a Saturday. So there's this metric that you need to keep within the metrics, and the metrics are quite tight. You need to make sure that you can ship them. Anything which is you have a cutoff point, and anything which is ordered before that cutoff point needs to be sent that day. So this means that you have to send everything SFP. You have to do it first, and it's good for things where you just you want that prime eligibility, but you don't want to go for the hoops or that FBA does, but then it has its own problems. Great for large catalogs, great for things which are which are delicate, or for some reason you can't deliver into a warehouse.
Yeah. I think the downside of SFP for me is that you end up essentially Amazon is the tail that wags your dog, isn't it? So
yes.
You have to structure your systems and processes around satisfying Amazon, and it means that you'll pick Amazon before you pick your own warehouse. So you're giving a better service to Amazon customers than your own customers, and that's not necessarily where you want to be.
So, no, I agree. And also you have to do things like, if you've got so we had a situation where the raw mail pickup was at 4, but the last SFP order was at 3. Could be 3, and that meant that it could come in between 3 and 4. So you had to kind of pick everything, and then you had to kind of turn it off, SFP off for an hour or something, to make sure that you could actually get everything into raw mail on time. And it was quite a lot of effort.
Yeah. But perhaps we haven't stressed the upside enough, which is, again, when we had this business and we turned SFP on and off, and we used to do it quite a lot when we had things like Royal Mail strikes or things like that, where we were forced to turn it off. And the difference it made to sales was huge. We were a retailer, so other people were selling the same products. But when we turned SFP off, our sales would go down by roughly 50%. So turning SFP on increased sales by about 80%.
Yeah, so it is. Prime eligibility is important, because you can see, if you go onto an Amazon page, you will see there's a little box saying "Show me prime eligible items only."
Yeah.
So yeah, it is. Unfortunately, Amazon just tells people they need to expect more and expect more and expect more and expect more, and therefore people expect more.
So, same question with FBM. Can you use SFP for international shipping?
No. Short answer.
Is there a longer answer?
I don't think there is.
Just can't.
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. Because there aren't really any next day international. I mean, I don't. That's only from the UK. I don't think you can do it in the EU. I haven't seen it in the EU. Maybe, but I don't think so.
Okay. Right. Let's talk about FBA. Can you explain what that is?
FBA is fulfilled by Amazon. So that's where you send the stuff into the Amazon warehouse. And they ship it. That's when it says, delivered by Amazon. So you would pick you would create your specific FBA SKUs in the inventory, and then you would create a shipment plan to send the products into Amazon. So you need to make sure, well, there's pros and cons of this. So the pro is that it tends to be cheaper. I mean, it's an amazing offer. You can just choose. You can have one product for you can store one product for 1 month, and you will get and you'll do no contracts, and you'll just get charged for what you send and what you store. No contracts, nothing. So it's amazing, and it's really good value if you have things into if you're selling those things on Amazon. You can also do something called multi-channel fulfillment. We use your FBA stock to fulfill your off Amazon orders, but that is more expensive and far less good value. So it's they're the pros. The cons are it's fiddly. I think you should tell us about how fiddly it is, Tom. How fiddly is it?
It's quite fiddly.
So how does this fiddliness manifest itself?
There's different ways in which it can be fiddly. So firstly, there's how you have to prepare the products to go into FBA. So if any part of the product is exposed, you have to put it in a plastic bag, each individual item, which is just a pain. There's a whole thing about barcoding. So if other people are selling the products, then Amazon essentially have a pool of identical products. So in order to keep those separate, you have to overlabel the barcode with an Amazon sticker, and that has to be applied. And it's just another step, and that can be a pain. Now, that's an issue, particularly if you're a retailer. If you're a brand owner and no one else is selling it, you can use your own barcode, and you don't have to label it, and that makes life so much easier. You have to go onto Amazon. You have to load all your products up. That's not that big an issue.
Another job, though. Another job.
It's another job. Some people do it manually. You can do it via upload file, and I'd 100% recommend doing it by upload file because it's just so much quicker. One thing to think about is whether to send up products in individual units or in cases. Again, cases, especially if you are a brand owner, tends to be easier and just more cost effective. But yeah, so Amazon copes quite well with case quantities, when you send up a pack of 6 or 12 or whatever it might be. Amazon are relatively good about working with, they've got their partnered carrier. So in the UK, it's UPS, and UPS can come and collect from you, especially if it's pallet quantities. If it's box quantities, they tend to want you to drop it off. But pallet quantities, it can work quite well. You book it for UPS, they turn up, you take it away, and it goes into Amazon. So it's kind of fiddly, but it's like anything. Once you get used to it,
I think, Mike, they have rules, and it's important you read those rules, and they're serious about them. That's the problem with Amazon. When Amazon say things, they're actually serious about it, and so they want you go through the process, and they ask you what's in the boxes you send, and you have to produce a label which then sticks on those boxes to say what's in those boxes, and also those boxes can only be a certain size. So, and if you go over that certain size, they will send you a message saying you went over that size, and then if you do that too often, then they'll stop you from sending stuff.
Stop you doing it, yeah.
So you need to actually
weight issue. So yeah, so the size limit is if any size is over 63, I think 1.5 centimeters, then they will, as Trevor said, give you a slap over the wrist first time. The weight, anything over 15 kgs for a box, you have to put a heavy sticker on it. And I think there's a limit of 25 kilos where they just won't take it if it's heavier than that. So for some products, that rules things out. We've got a client who, only send out stuff in cases. And for some products, the cases are bigger than 63 centimeters. So they just literally can't go. So something to watch.
You could try saying that, but they would get upset with you. It's what happened.
I tried and I got a slap on the wrist, so I haven't done it again. So,
what did you say? You did.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a general rule of Amazon. Whatever Amazon asks for, give them exactly what they want, and then generally they go away. If you have to have special pleading, you're probably going to lose.
If you ever ask the question, will I get away? If anyone ever asks us, will you get away with this? The answer is no, you won't. Don't try.
It's not worth trying.
I cannot advise you to do that. You take that entirely on your own back. I'm not taking responsibility for that piece of advice.
So, I mean, we talked about the pros and cons of FBM. What about FBA? What are the good things?
Okay, well, in FBA, there's this fiddliness. which we just talked about, you have to go through the process. It's really important not to run out of stock, because if you run out of stock, then you'll lose your search position. So you have to have a system in place for, weekly, sending up stock on a weekly basis. I mean, you have to pay storage, but the storage tends to be quite reasonable unless you store it for a long period of time. And also, when you're starting off, they'll only give you a certain amount of storage, because what they don't want is people to send it through, send stuff and use it as long-term storage. So Amazon really, I mean, think about FBA as a system where things which are relatively small go in boxes with other things. So the benefit from a kind of consumer, for I suppose a retailer and a consumer, is that it enables your products to go into boxes with other people's products and buy your stuff alongside other people's products. So it's designed for, kind of, should we say, shoebox size things, I think is the kind of stuff that it's really best for. And you can tell that because they've got the, you can always tell, I think, with they tell you what they want, because that's how they price things. So they've got the standard size products and they've got so-called oversized products. So to a certain extent, it's saying that they don't want these oversized products, or not as much as they want the smaller products. So the benefit is really that you get that prime eligibility. Your stuff can be bought alongside other people's stuff. It's cheaper. I mean, it's easier. You don't have to have a warehouse. It's great from that point of view. It's better than, for Amazon, it's better than having your own warehouse or using a 3PL. But I mean, it's more expensive for sending stuff multi-channel. So, but there's massive advantage. It is a great system. Much as I hate to say that about Amazon, it is a great system.
And let's be clear, we advise all of our clients to use FBA if they can.
That's pretty much the first thing we advise them, in fact.
Yeah, because it makes such a difference to sales.
Yeah.
So you can also for whom. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I mean, another big advantage is that the international shipping. So they have something called remote FBA, where sometimes in Europe it's called the European Fulfillment Network, where you can you make your products available internationally. Say yes, they will be exported, and then it'll ship from the inventory in one country into another country. So in Europe, it's called the European Fulfillment Network. You can, if you create the listings in France, Italy, Germany, Spain, it will ship the products into those countries, and you won't have to worry about storage, and you don't have to worry about tax. It does cost more. The shipping does cost more, though.
Yeah.
So that's a real advantage.
The shipping costs more, and Amazon also apply a fee, which you don't actually see. It goes straight onto the price. But let's say something costs £25 here. They wouldn't translate that into euros directly into, say, £30. They'd translate it into £30 plus. Depends on the country, but €3.99 or €4.99. So you will be more expensive. But it's like bonus sales. There is a bit of a hassle setting up the listings. Build International Listings is an Amazon facility that can help build listings. In our experience, it's not worth using. It just creates more issues than it solves. It's better to set up listings as you did in your home market for whatever products, and maybe use something like ChatGPT or DeepL3 for the translations. But we just found it's just not worth using Built International Listings.
Yeah.
I was going to say that a combination of FBA and FBM can be particularly useful if you've got a very large catalog. So let's say you're a clothing retailer, you've got 5 colors and 5 sizes of everything. You know that there's going to be a central size that sells the most. Send that one to FBA, or maybe send the best 3, but your more niche sizes, keep them in your own warehouse because you're not going to sell many, and use FBM for selling those. That can be a good model where you have that kind of 80-20 rule. 20% of your product line generates 80% of your sales. So the high selling stuff send through to FBA, the long tail, maybe think about it. Maybe send to FBA, maybe don't, but you don't have to send it all there.
I think the last thing I want to talk about is pan-European FBA. So that's a special program whereby if you have, and it's a bit complicated, forgive me if I've got this wrong, right? If you have a listing if you have a listing in all 4, in France, Italy, Germany, and Spain, and you have a VAT registration in at least 2 countries, then you can send your products into Germany, into a warehouse in the EU, in one of those countries where you've got you've got a registration, and it will be delivered throughout the EU at the local shipping rate. So that means you can deliver from, you can have one pool of inventory in the EU and deliver prime eligible throughout the EU.
And for our clients, we recommend that as, if you like, the ultimate state of fulfillment for FBA across Europe. You can't get better than that. It's cost effective. The downsides are you need VAT registrations in every country where you're storing stock. And to have the VAT registrations can take a while. You obviously have to do the VAT returns, which can be monthly, quarterly, annually, depending on the country. And you need to be able to get stock into Europe, which isn't that hard, but it's like anything. You just got to find a way of doing it. And it can be a bit fiddly with the customs and everything else post-Brexit, which we bemoan every time we talk about
it. Brexit. It's just marvellous.
It has not
the best idea that anyone ever had.
Yeah, as e-commerce experts, we see no upside in Brexit. So,
not from an e-commerce point of view. It was great for people who were not from the EU who wanted to work in the UK. So it's been great for Indians working in the UK, I'd say. It's been really fantastic for them.
Yeah.
And I think it's been good for low-paid work. Well, it certainly was at one point good for low-paid workers.
I think if you're something like a plumber and an electrician or something like that, if you can get rid of all the Poles who would come in, I'm sure that has helped their standard of living.
I don't know. Do you know what? Maybe not, because I think there's a lot of these people actually employed. I mean, so if you've got your own construction company in the UK, you used to employ a lot of these people.
Mm.
So, it's like any of these that they can't get the workforce anymore.
Yeah.
One day we'll regret it.
Let's not talk about that anymore. Anything else to talk about FBA?
Well, there's a few programs. I mean, so there's the big and heavy program. Well, this is not, well, this is a different thing as opposed to FBA, but Amazon is always trying to get more things into Prime. So they have a program. If you've got furniture, then there's something called the big and heavy program, and this enables people with furniture to deliver stuff from their own warehouse and be Prime eligible, and deliver it under to a timescale. So people can, if you're delivering a washing machine or something, you can then go into Amazon and choose a time and get it delivered at that time. So that's great for those kind of products. I mean, the other thing is small and light, which is if you've got items which are under 10 pounds, I think, then you can, or maybe it's, I can't remember. For very, very light items, they have a specific scheme, which I really can't remember the details of, but it is worth it. It's cheaper if you have to register specifically for those things.
Yeah.
And there's one last thing, which is Amazon has I don't know if it's got a specific name, but you can enable Amazon to buy your stock. If you send things into FBA, you can enable Amazon to buy your stock and sell it internationally. It's a particular option.
I believe is it called Sell Globally?
Yes.
So the advantage to you as a seller is that you've got access across the whole world. Now, it only applies if someone from, say, let's pick a country, Bolivia, goes on to amazon.co.uk and seeks to buy something. If you've enabled Sell Globally, they will ship it out to Bolivia. So that's just a free way of growing your sales by 5 or 10%. So why would you not have that turned on? And you can obviously only do that through FBA because it's using Amazon's fulfillment network. And it counts as a UK sale. So you sell it to Amazon, they sell it to the person in Bolivia. So you're, from a VAT point of view, you've got a UK VAT transaction. So that simplifies life as well.
So Tom, we've got to the end. We've got to the end as our usual question, and we haven't rehearsed this one. This is a totally spontaneous thing. Anything to share with the group, with the listeners, Tom? Have you been any inspiration this week?
Well, I was thinking about this. What's inspired me, and I've reached a point where all my kids have left home. But on Sunday, we stopped by my brother-in-law, who has got a 1.5-year-old, and I think I've always been quite keen on toddlers. I'm not interested in babies, but toddlers have got the most fantastic positive attitude to life. They just head out into life and enjoy it. And, they try and make the most of everything, and they're really positive, and going to see the ducks is like the most exciting thing that's ever happened. And I often think, where do we lose it? You look at the US election at the moment, which, the voting's happening today, and it's all so cynical and so negative. And I find small children very inspiring in that sense. I also find my brother-in-law inspiring. He's only a year younger than me. He's 52, and he's got a 1.5-year-old. And frankly,
how old is his wife? Has he got a new model wife?
She's 40. So Not
First wife,
young,
second
young,
wife?
but first wife. He
Okay.
was slow off the
Awesome.
blocks getting married, but he
know,
chose a good one. He did choose a good
Picasso said something to the effect that you spend your entire life, he spent his entire life learning how to draw like a child.
one. Yes. Well, the wife calls me childish, but I think I'm more childlike.
Okay, in that spirit, I was going to say something else, but in that spirit, I'm going to say Ted Lasso. Because Ted Lasso, I don't know if you've seen it, but is just the most positive individual. But he's just, I mean, he just reminds you of the power of kindness and the disarming kindness. I mean, he's so kind to everyone. I mean, it's a bit ridiculous in the whole thing, but it's just like he totally disarms people with kindness, and it's just inspiring to watch.
But isn't it sad that we don't expect people to be kind?
Yeah. So I watched it. I read the book A Gentleman in Moscow again. Just tries to see the best in people all the time. Yeah. I think we need to read cheerful things like that every so often. You've got miserable politicians being miserable. But we're not going to get. We're going to get like with Kemi. We're going to get 4 years of her being miserable.
Angry. She's quite an angry lady.
And angry and hostile. Followed by her being totally annihilated in the next election and then blaming it on everyone else.
Well, there we go. A little bit of politics.
There we go. There's a prediction for you. Tom, great to chat. Until the next time.
As ever, see you next time.
Toodle pip. Bye.